Foolishness, Capcom. Foolishness. Why have you forsaken the Wait. What? Seriously? In the weeks that I've been thinking about whether to make a video or not, you gave us this? What? Were you waiting for me to wait a video? It's me, Bunny Beck, and I'm a little bit angry, and not as much as I was before the release of this amazing teaser. And I can't believe something like this happened 13 years later, almost, after we got the first anime. It seems to be the animated portion. Dante is wearing DMC4 code, carrying two Beretta 92s, and no sword. Also in the title card, he's wearing the DMC1 coat with ebony and ivory, and Rebellion is on his back. Sounds like something of a prequel or origin story, and I'm here for it. And just so everyone knows, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, Hideki Itsuno, the game director since Devil May Cry 3, is supervising this project, so yeah, it's gonna be good. Kinda back to the title and the topic of the video. I don't know how many Devil May Cry fans are out there, but as a fellow fan myself, I have not been satisfied with the amount of things we've been getting in the past few years. It's a bit kinda obvious why Capcom seems to be giving most of their attention to Resident Evil series lately, instead of sharing some of that love with DMC. As someone who considers herself both a Resident Evil and a Devil May Cry fanatic, I have lots of thoughts why paying attention to the Devil May Cry franchise, especially if they made remakes of the older games or had plans out in the open for a bit, would be good. If I want to talk about numbers a bit, looking at them, it's easy to see why Capcom invested heavily in Resident Evil. It's kind of by far their most commercially successful franchise, given the characters, the gameplay style, and the numbers of memories we all have with the games. The Resident Evil series has sold over 100 million units total across all games. That's an incredibly big ass number that only a handful of video game franchises have ever achieved. Unlike some other franchises that peaked early and then went down for whatever reason, Resident Evil has seen a major high thanks to some of the huge hits like Resident Evil 7 and the Resident Evil 2 and 4 remakes. Resident Evil 7 has sold over 12.4 million copies, making it one of the best-selling Resident Evil games of all time. Meanwhile, Resident Evil 4 sold 5 million copies in just 4 months, showing there is a massive demand for Resident Evil remakes. Why not do the same for Devil May Cry games? Get this. Comparing Resident Evil to Devil May Cry games, they sold out pretty well, but maybe just not as well as Resident Evil. Devil May Cry 5 sold 61 million copies, and also the DMC Devil May Cry reboot in 2013 sold less than 2 million copies, but let's not go through the fact that so many people didn't like it, but enjoyed the gameplay nonetheless. That's not to say the Devil May Cry games are bad by any means, but Resident Evil is clearly Capcom's financial crown jewel. Capcom has different approaches when it comes to these games. Resident Evil has tons of spin-offs and many likable and playable characters that have been accepted by fans from the beginning. They are not afraid to introduce new characters and even use some of them later, even with the remakes. This is kinda different for Devil May Cry, that it's like a kind of a must that Dante has to be included in the game, but in my opinion, some tweaks and peaks and experiments here and there, the franchise won't die if they bring another character for a few years. Is Nero hated now? I doubt it. It seems like the fans can be a little bit too diehard when it comes to DMC. If they make a simple mistake, a riot happens? But think about it as a spin-off. Think about all the goody good stuff from Resident Evil games that came to be. Although no director has ever worked on 2 Resident Evil games head-to-head, considering how the direction with Devil May Cry goes. A Devil May Cry game is fairly harder to make due to its complex gameplay and all the styles mixed with different combos. And also it can be a little bit intimidating for newcomers. Imagine showing someone who has no idea what DMC is something like this clip. So it's kind of safer for developers to do stuff at Resident Evil than trying to have different angles on DMC. But why not? It could have been the same kind of for Resident Evil if they never went with all the spin-offs. Even some of the most recent games show how different the potential is between the IPs. Resident Evil Village has shipped over 8 million units since it came out, and Devil May Cry 5, being the amazing game with phenomenal jaw-dropping soundtracks, sold around 6.5 million copies. It's not a bad number, but Resident Evil still has it a bit higher. While Resident Evil has a most diverse universe, the lore and the backstories of characters like Dante, Virgil, and Nero also have a ton of potential to be explored in really fresh ways. We basically haven't seen many things from them, haven't played from lots of angles, and sadly, we still don't have information about so many details, like the early years of Dante and Virgil and Sparta. It would be thrilling if we could play as Sparta or experience some stuff from Eve's. It would be kind of thrilling if we could also play as Sparta or experience some stuff from Eve's point of view, experiencing the game with new weapons or even new twists and mixture to the old ones. Many fans would love to see modern takes on the tales of Son of Sparta, and also one of the truest forms of power. Early DMC games kind of defined the action in the hack and slash genre, and the more modern titles made some huge jumps. I believe since DMC is also a franchise with diehard fans and nostalgia feelings from the earlier games, it would be beneficial for them if they remade a game like Devil May Cry 3. Please do it. Seeing the gothic environment, detailed character details, and a flair of Dante's ability redone with today's graphics would invite many more and new and old players to the franchise. The DMC world and combat deserves to be represented with top-notch modern visuals. DMC 1 to 3 have just as much nostalgia appeal as the early Resident Evil games. Fans would love to re-experience those titles with improved modern designs. The Devil May Cry franchise has had just as big of an impact in the gaming industry as Resident Evil. It introduced unique blends of action, adventure, and horror that many gamers enjoyed and made many developers get ideas from them. It also had a slight impact on pop culture, maybe anime as well. Devil May Cry franchise is one of the few action games that can match the sheer intensity of Resident Evil. Both franchises offer a fairly unique experience that keep players on the edge of their seats. A remake or remaster of the early Devil May Cry games would be a smart business move for Capcom. So please make it happen. Do you guys agree with the things I said? Do you think a remake or a remaster would be a good idea, or they should just let it go for something else, maybe continue their attention mostly fixated on Resident Evil? Or aside from the anime part, they should start giving more attention to our boys Dante, Virgil, and Nero. Please leave your opinion as a comment down below. I would love to read them, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Bye bye!
I can hear the demons call when they do what they do, and now I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through, I just gotta get through. Cause I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through. Gotta get through this, life is a nuisance.